What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? We are finally here, finally kicking this thing off. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. My name is Eric Taylor, Barricade Cyber, and this is the Unnamed Podcast. As always, if you're joining this thing, please know that this content will be explicit, and we just don't hold back. We are not politically correct, and we're just going to let things flow. All views are that expressed by everybody is they're of their own and not of the businesses that they run from. And with that said, we're going to get started with the introductions. We have Mr. Robert, Mr. Shiva, Mr. Brian Weiss, and Mr. Andy. How's everybody going, gentlemen?
Hey.
If our opinions aren't that of the companies we represent and we each own our own companies.
Yeah, I know. But hey, I got to try to put some sort of disclaimer buffer in there, right?
I thought we just could start off with some incendiary bullshit. Like,
Hey,
Andy, tell me about MSPs being attacked by nation states. Is that a threat locker briefing?
Yeah. Oh my god.
This is exactly where I was going to go. Exactly.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's still a thing. More and more.
Well, is it new news is really the question.
No,
old news that shouldn't be news, but still is news.
Well, so I honestly think because and I think I was talking about this earlier in our private Zoom, but that Q1 really had so little ransomware attacks that were disclosed and actually put out there that they don't want MSPs to get lax in their security. Even though we know that, I know. MSPs by general are pretty lax in their security, but now is a good time before things get picked back up. Start looking at your infrastructure. Start paying attention to your crap. Right?
What infrastructure? With everything being in the cloud.
And when did anyone ever stop, or when were you supposed to stop? Like, isn't it an ongoing journey?
It's supposed to be, but most people think you can just throw a piece of software like Threat Locker on there and it solves everything.
Look, Brian, when I go to try and find myself, I go on a journey. Right?
Oh God, here we go.
If I'm looking at the state of my affairs in terms of my security, that's not a journey. That's a slap in the face of cold hard reality of what I shouldn't be doing. I mean, I think this is a term that I coined with Robert probably 2 years ago now. Willful ignorance. It is absolutely what it is now. I mean, it is. People know what they're doing, and of course he leaves. He's got to go, but
he's got food trucks outside.
He's got food trucks. I don't blame him.
I would go too.
And it is getting late. He's the old grumpy dude, so he's probably getting ready for bedtime too.
I know. Murder She Wrote about
younger and grumpy like us.
But I think at this point it is willful ignorance of what people should be doing. So
in what sense?
You don't know what you don't know, so therefore you don't need to protect it.
I think one, you don't know what you don't know, but that is also a trait that people need to understand about what job they are in and what field they are in. Information technology, almost generally, unless you're an electrician, necessitates some form of security. Through the hardware layer, all the way up through the software layers, and everything on top of that. But to willfully say, "Hey, I'm going to provide you services, and I'm not going to care at all about my services and my own personal security and your security." I mean, if you haven't seen the news lately, just even the mainstream news. I mean, that's the thing.
The fake news or the real news?
Both.
Okay. All.
I mean, I would even say go to Twitter now. Elon owns it. It's all truth.
No,
now.
he may pull out.
Oh,
His pullout game is strong.
wow, but you never know.
Oh God, I could go so many different.
I mean, it's if I'm out there providing security or any services to a company, IT related, the next, yeah, sure, I can work on that, but let's also think, okay, how are we going to secure your stuff? How are we going? How am I going to secure myself? I mean, this is nothing new.
So on the willful ignorance, is that what you called it?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. It is
Blissful
willfully
ignorance.
being ignorant about the state of affairs.
What I'm hearing you tell me is that MSPs want the easy button, and they realize that to provide their their services the way they should be, it's not the easy button. So they're willfully accepting the fact that, hey, I'm not going to spend time on this. Is that what we're talking about? It's too hard.
Yeah, that's why the cloud exists. People couldn't fucking do DNS. But I have a different question here.
Yeah.
What about IT providers? And I don't only want to shit on MSPs because I think it goes around. What about all these IT providers who love to market themselves as consider us your internal IT staff?
Yeah.
Is that assumption of liability? Because
Yes.
now you're saying we are you are us.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean it's a perceived liability risk, right? So if something happens, then you assume that risk because you were part of the entity. I think
But I sent the cover my
VICO
ass email like all the forums told me to do.
and we've talked about this, and I even brought this up on some other forums. I'm like, look, you may do that, but there's legal lawsuit that's going to set precedents because you sent an email and had them sign saying, look, you are negating security against our best recommendations, and you're not supposed to keep doing business from what a lot of the cases are saying right now because
And remember, past precedent can be undone. Not to get political.
But I don't think we can blame it all on the MSPs. We have to put a lot of blame on the vendors too, right? Because, hey, my clients are secure because this vendor told me because I'm using their product that they're secure.
But see, I
right?
still blame that on the SPs because they don't know what to freaking ask. They don't have the mental intelligence to ask
They
do
don't-
the due diligence and the questions
No,
to
but-
actually investigate.
I don't disagree with you there, but I would take it one step further and say the typical MSP does not have the financial firepower to go up against a major vendor and a major vendor in the MSP space.
Mm.
Take Kaseya because they're our favorite whipping boy.
True.
The average MSP can't spend FU money on legal fees to go up against Kaseya. Kaseya will paper them into the ground with motion practice.
Yeah, but I'm talking about before they even get in bed with them, right? They don't ask half the questions they should. They're like, "Ooh,
What
what's
are
the-
those questions?
Oh,
That is a good question.
So, can you see our data? Who
Can you
can
put
see
these
our
up on
data?
the screen?
So, I mean, I can start texting them, I'm sure.
Or you know what? Go to barricadecyber.com/Eric or /something, and he will give you a list of the fuckery that we say you should take a look at and ask.
Yeah, I mean, you should really be asking, who can the vendor see your data? Can you lock out the vendor from seeing your data?
Cryptographically.
Can it be audited?
An insurance questionnaire is not a good example.
Oh, and
Look at
please,
that.
to talk about that, please stop filling out the questionnaires for your clients. Holy crap.
We're getting off on a lot of tangents here.
Well, I
but
mean,
like,
because
These
I
are
like
the
where we're
best
going.
kinds.
The reason I mention that is because a lot of MSPs that do not, or even IT service providers, or whatever you want to say,
Fuckers.
they will use and I've seen this, they will use an insurance questionnaire, security questionnaire, as their baseline document for needing to ask questions of the vendors. I mean,
I mean, in all fairness, if every small business out there could answer yes to at least the insurance questionnaire, wouldn't we be in a better place? I mean,
No,
at least
because you have insurance
That's
questionnaires.
predicated on the
questionnaires are such a low barrier to entry because they want you to pay money.
But the bigger
Obviously,
issue is
they
that
want your
most
money.
can't even answer yes to all of those. So
But see,
I
when
would
you have questions like, are your switches under MFA protection? No.
Your network switches.
No, we
You
don't use
can't-
Meraki.
All right, that's a fair point. The questions are a little ridiculous sometimes.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
I posed this up on the podcast I was just on not too long ago. I am literally talking to insurance companies, which don't really care, but I'm trying. I want to literally get to a point where insurance companies are saying, hey, CIS version 8, do you adhere to at least this basic framework for cybersecurity in your industry? Improve that.
They will never do that because they
Mhm.
want self-attestation. They need
Need
self-attestation.
self-attestation on that wall. And you can't handle the truth.
Because if you say you've checked the boxes, dotted the I's, crossed the T's, and you didn't when you go to make your claim, they can tell you to piss off.
Exactly.
But I just talked about this with PAX 8 the other day,
Oh, dear Lord.
and they were trying to talk about how can they help with their marketing material, right? And I'm like, how about all these vendors
what?
that you resell? How about you give me what controls they appease in CIS, assuming they're configured to best practice, which is the other thing we haven't talked about.
Brian?
Why did,
as far
why
as
did
using the
CIS
tool.
win? Because I like CIS, you like it. Eric's mentioned it.
No-
Why is CIS the
No
compliance regime?
bureaucracy. I don't know.
Guys, define CIS for the crowd.
You know what? That's a good freaking question. I've said it so much, I don't even remember.
I don't know what CIS means, but they have a control set, version 8, I think it is.
It used to be the
Um,
SANS. Oh, critical security controls.
And they actually,
So while Shiva's doing that, Brian, you and I have talked ad nauseum.
so
Yep.
this is CIS. They tell you the controls, and they even tell you, hey, asshole, who don't know what you're doing, instead of Googling, here's what it is.
And they even have a web page now where you can set your company and your client's company up, so put all that information in and generate a very nice report. So you don't
I
have to do anything.
platform this.
Can
for
I
my
get a
clients.
copy of that platform? No.
Come to Halo.
Yeah, oh fuck, here we go. We'll have that discussion later. But Brian, you and I have had this discussion with PAX 8 and other channels that we won't mention, but
Oh, fuck,
we have-
come on. Now you're going to be bashful?
no,
Do
but
it.
where we have talked to PAX 8 ad nauseum about doing this. What PAX 8 really needs to do is more on their client education. They need to educate their partners, their clients, whatever you want to call them this week. That's going to be the best thing for them. Not marketing.
Bill payers.
But how do you cut through all the smoke and mirrors marketing? Is it not getting straight down to a control
can't.
set and saying, hey, these are the gaps this fills if you configure it this way, right?
Oh, Brian, I got the answer for you. I know an MSP in somewhere in California in a place where San Luis something or the other that I can't fucking pronounce. Now that guy, he's learned. And he's learned so much to the point where he's willing to walk away from bad money, meaning bad clients, and seek business with clients that appreciate security. Do you think vendors will do that? Do you think vendors are going to say, here, keep your money, we don't want it?
No, and that's the problem I'm running into. Like on all these
There you
partner
go.
advisory boards, when I try to push for
brain
enterprise
dumps.
security and things that we need for to keep us safe, right? Like for our own good, we need these things, but they aren't revenue drivers, right?
Mhm.
It's not something that they add and then can make money off of it. It's something they add to perform good due diligence, maybe to be a good steward to their partners, to make sure they're trying to make the world a better place, right? They're not revenue drivers.
My Lord.
Yeah.
Kumbaya.
So what sucks is the average MSP in our industry doesn't care about these enterprise security features. Therefore, they're not going to make money on them. Therefore, they don't care as much about them, right? Is that not the truth? I don't know. I'm just trying to wonder, like, I feel like I'm fighting between, enterprise companies. I don't have those concerns, but they don't obviously
Because they
have
have real risk.
Yeah. You're
An
right.
enterprise
because
company is going to sell to a Fortune 100 company, and that Fortune 100 company has more money for motion practice than that enterprise vendor.
that Fortune 100 company could take that enterprise vendor out of business if the wrong thing happens. Whereas it would take a collective huge group of MSPs to gang up in a class action.
That's not going to happen because MSPs can't get along. Okay,
right?
But here's the thing: a company can get hit 3 times by the same ransomware group in 4 years, and still be a-okay financially.
and buy out one of the leading competitors, which is a monopoly move, and not be questioned apparently about that at all. And no antitrust concerns there, right?
No, not at all. Because MSP is such a small component of IT services in the grand scheme of things, no one gives a shit.
I mean, hell, even the Florida Transportation Department learned after their second ransomware incident in under a year.
What about the DEA that just got hit?
Yeah.
I mean, there's CGIS. How are those controls working out for you?
So are we going to see an exodus of mature MSPs leaving MSP channel vendors?
Yes.
And so that all MSPs...
By no means am I ever calling myself mature, but I've been on that path for the last 2 years. And people have laughed me out of Zoom rooms saying, oh, MSP is great. Fuck MSP.
So what I'm hearing is that maybe it's only 5 to 10%, right? Book of business, mature MSPs for a channel vendor, but it's their largest book of business, I'm sure, right? That 5 to 10% probably makes up what, 40%, maybe 30% of their overall gross revenue.
I wouldn't know. I mean, you're on the partner advisory board for
rough
Datto.
Numbers. I'm just throwing out some numbers out there.
All the new partners they got with a $50 minimum, that's got to add up to maybe $35.
And I'm also pointing out the fact that the mature MSPs are the ones that are truly driving their products to be better, right? And so they're going to lose.
How is that working out for you, Brian?
They're going to. Let me finish my story. They're going to lose interest from these mature MSPs that are dedicating their time to drive and make these products better. And they're going to lose all of a sudden what's going to happen to partner advisory boards. They're going to get thinner, right? Or they're going to have less mature MSPs part of them, which aren't really doing too much at that point because all they care about is efficiency, right? And it's all about my world and no one else's world in a less mature MSP world. I don't know.
Too long, didn't listen.
I feel sorry for Datto.
Fair enough.
The day you realize they ain't shit.
Well,
in terms of RMM,
he's slowly getting there. Brian's slowly getting there.
That's what I'm saying. I feel sorry for the day that comes.
But I think the thing to realize too, though, is that companies that get this big, it's almost by product line, is what I'm starting to realize.
Really
right?
Big, though, that's like a guy telling a chick, "I got 8 inches waiting for you later," and she gets home to a Vienna sausage. Like, I mean,
where's the other 5 inches to this sausage?
What I mean by that is there's certain products that drive more revenue for the company, and they're going to always focus on those first. So like Datto Cirrus, for example, do you think that's ever not going to be best of breed, no matter how much Kaseya owns it?
Let me ask you a question, because I love the Cirrus platform. Okay. And I like it. Well, let me ask you, why do you think it's so good? And then I'll tell you why I think.
I would say hands down the fact that it's turnkey.
Exactly. And you pay a premium for it. And I think it's a deserved premium because I don't need to hunt down software. I don't need to hunt down cloud architecture. I don't need to hunt down a local device. It's, hey, take my money, give me this shit, bill me every month, and it works. More times than not. And they give you a screenshot.
So I don't necessarily see all products like turning it, like let's just assume, right? You've got Kaseya and Datto. Kaseya buys Datto. Kaseya turns Datto evil, right? I don't necessarily see in all their products tanking. Yeah, turns, changes. I don't know.
Implying that they're not already.
Well, more evil.
More evil.
Evil. I mean, what's the source of all evil? What is it, or what do they say?
Money.
Call center, right?
Money
So-
is the source of all evil.
Taking live orders at a
So,
restaurant.
so
Yeah.
when you're a publicly traded company and money drives every decision and the source of all evil is money, I mean, naturally there's already some evil there, I guess, right? I don't know.
But your money drives you. Money drives me. I would dare I say money drives everybody in this room. Otherwise, why would you deal with users?
Well, it doesn't drive me outside of my values. I would not forfeit a value that I have or a belief because of money. I mean, and some people would. So
Okay.
All right, you guys have fun. I'm out of here.
Let us know what you get.
Thanks for the conversation.
Yeah, I know. All y'all talk about is Kaseya and Dado, and who cares?
Well, look here, Grumpy. Next time you pitch in a topic.
Robert Nelson likes Kaseya. Kaseya, if you're listening, call him.
Just as
Yeah,
soon
he
as we
wants
got
to call
started,
every day.
No, seriously, just as soon as we got started, there was this massive feedback of power in here and shut everything I own down. That's why I disappeared.
Oh, dang.
Oh, wow.
Kaseya didn't want you talking about him.
Out of here.
Oh, man.
Oh, that poor grumpy old coot. I swear.
So what else? Instead of shitting on Kaseya the entire time.
well, I mean, we're getting back. I think how we got off on this tangent is Andy brought up the whole willful neglect or willful ignorance, right?
Yeah. I mean,
And then
the whole thing of it. I hate to say it. I mean, computers have been around for what? I mean, modernized desktop computers in the office space.
94-ish, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, 94, 95, but ubiquitous definitively by 2000.
Yeah,
You know,
especially with the whole Y2K, yeah.
You had the whole Y2K thing. Everybody learned about computers and the
People
implications
learned
of
about
the date.
computers?
I mean, it was on the
Hush,
news.
Jibba.
It was mainstream on the news. So, I mean, if you're going to be in that space, I mean, in this space, you definitively should have at least a small clue or hint to go looking for what to do. I mean, it's not, or at least, I mean, say, hey, you know, how do I better this area? I mean, it's not that hard. I mean, getting into IT almost necessitates security.
But I don't need to know security to replace the motherboard. I don't need security.
Low level hardware. I mean,
Are
but
we
that's
saying
That's still IT.
are we saying that all MSPs should be doing security? Or
Yeah.
are we saying
yeah.
maybe not all MSPs should be doing security?
I would say
So here's, I think all MSPs need to be aware about cybersecurity, and if they do not have the technical aptitude to do it themselves, they damn sure need to partner up with an actual cybersecurity firm, not just a.
So
take Barricade out
Vigilante
of
it
it.
is, right?
Oh, I'm going to go play in traffic.
You
But-
buy their SKU.
ConnectWise's
become an
ransomware group.
MSSP.
Dado's ransomware protection.
Yeah, as a service.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Brian, are you on InfoSite yet?
So this is where I love to blame the Robin Robbins and the other guy. I won't mention
Man,
his
I
name.
don't blame her.
Chris Weiser.
I don't blame her
douchebag.
at all. I mean,
I don't blame her or him.
I'll tell you why I blame them, because they aren't asking this same question we're asking right now when they're helping companies market their services.
They don't care.
Instead of
That's not
telling
their
an
job.
MSP to really figure out whether or not you should be taking on these types of services right now, they're saying, here's how you go sell this. Here's a money-making opportunity. Even though you aren't skilled to be able to sell this service, we're going to tell you how to go sell it, and you're going to make more
What's
money.
the one thing both Robin Robbins and Chris Weiser say, like every other tutorial company or someone's got a course to sell? What's the one phrase they all use?
We're not liable for anything that.
But you
I
have
don't
to
know.
do the work yourself. You have to make the effort yourself, and you have to know what you're doing. We're just telling you how to sell it.
Yeah. So we're going to tell you to sell something you don't even know how to do yet, without caring about the fact you don't know how to do it yet. Right. That's the issue I have. Like, let's pre-qualify these MSPs before we tell them to go start selling something that they aren't even qualified to sell.
But then
And
how are
that's
they
my
gonna make
issue.
money?
Well, that's again, that's why I can blame.
I think the problem
companies
there
like
is you're
Robin
getting
Robbins.
too much into the chicken and egg of a newly started out, managed provider or whatever you want to call it. I think the main thing really boils down to, okay, you've sold your first client. What do you do now? Great. You've deployed a
YubiKey, Robert Ducky.
So
And
someone's
for those
got
of you looking at
ADHD on
Eric's
the call.
screen, he compromised. Well, he's using a YubiKey to compromise a system. He has not compromised the YubiKey. He is using intended features for bad boy stuff.
Yep.
Robert Ducky.
Hypothetically.
YubiKey.
I don't know. I think I think the whole thing is a matter of
Now you're scaring
Because
people
the
from
thing is,
using
you
YubiKeys.
have to
YubiKeys are
tell-
still
Well, you know what? They should fucking be smart enough to understand what he did and not jump to a goddamn conclusion,
That's true.
which is what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't jump to conclusions.
Don't be a dumbass.
That was
Yeah.
a game on
That's
offense.
my
Don't be
job.
willfully ignorant, Brian. Come on.
Blissfully ignorant.
Yeah. Don't. Man, I
Sounds
wish I was
better.
still in high school. Blissfully ignorant of the shitty world we live in.
Eric, you got any stripper poles?
No, I was looking for him in here, but I couldn't find any.
I asked Eric a question backstage, not backdoor, backstage, children.
And not the backstage for ConnectWise Screen Connect or whatever they call it now.
How many providers will not use a vendor because that vendor requires onboarding, whether it's a time commitment or a financial commitment?
So I have, because
Depends on the vendor.
Yeah, it depends on the vendor, but most of the time their onboarding is everything that I know how to do in under 20 minutes of setting up their platform, because it's already a documented step-by-step process anyway when you sign up for their service. I'm like, oh, I do this. Okay. And they're like, oh yeah, you've already set it up, everything that we were going to show you. Great. Can I have my onboarding back? No, you can't have that back.
Okay, let's use ConnectWise Managed because that actually, their onboarding, at least when I went through it, did help me.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
needed onboarding with ConnectWise.
My
I
point
mean,
is,
I would say like in any major, system of systems, having an onboarding, with a dedicated onboarding manager, obviously makes sense. I mean, that is something that is not something that is just a turnkey and go kind of thing.
it's not WebRoot,
It
got
is a business process. So yeah. Anyways, continue, please. I'll.
No, go for it.
No,
I mean-
you got Andy to be quiet when you said WebRoot.
Yeah.
Greatest antivirus ever. If
Said
you are an
nobody.
MSP, you should definitely, maybe, probably, kind of should use it.
Or maybe kind of not just go play in traffic.
But
Yeah.
remember, I am drinking, so don't listen to me for legal purposes.
Please don't replace a built-in antivirus with something that does worse.
Well, like a product that allows the first device to get breached before they detect anything else?
Yeah.
Oh wow! Wait, how many
You know-
beers have you had, Eric?
I
feel
actually
you're-
have not.
The
No, I'm
I have a
drinking
funny
water.
story along the lines of that phrase. What happens if the demographic you're selling to are a bunch of one-man bands? They lose their first machine.
Well,
Oops.
to be fair, the price
Better
point
hope their
is-
QuickBooks
I
wasn't
just-
on it.
Yeah, to be fair, the vendor that we are speaking about in COI terms, I think is already outpriced for the single man MSP or in single man shops or stuff like that.
This is true.
So, I mean, I don't know what their price point is, but I do remember it's pretty high. So, yeah,
I don't want to say it's high. I would say it's more than what's commercially available in the vertical, but they also provide a lot more value than
No.
the competitors, people who sell the same thing. I don't want to say competitors because they actually have a better product than most, but
They're not competitors.
You know what
But
I
the
would like
MSP
to
space
do?
will view them as a competitor, though. But anyway,
yeah.
Here's what I'd like to entertain the idea of doing. Can we tear down an RMM and talk about how we don't need it installed 24/7 anymore?
I asked Huntress that question a
Mhm.
year ago, 2 years ago. I said, hey, I like your product. Don't think I really need it, but you know what? It would be great if I can use it as an onboarding tool. Have it on the client for the first 2 to 4 weeks, rip it out. Give me 100 licenses. I'll pay for the year, whatever it is, but I got to be able to round trip them. Pull them off, put them on, pull them off, put them on. They're like, nah, we want to be on every machine all day, every day. And I get it from a financial standpoint because they're going to sell more agents, but
So when you take a look at, and this is going to be a friggin' Hunter's bash, and here we go. I'm going to have Kyle yelling at me in backstage rooms, but Huntress really is a souped up auto run. So you have a bunch of GRC analysts that are looking at auto runs through feeds. So while some of the auto runs detections are very easy to understand, you'll be able to pop them off pretty quick. A lot of times they don't detect it for at least 2 to 3, 4 weeks. So, I mean, you got to have that historic data for that auto runs to really detect, and AKA for hunters to be able to detect. So without that,
what I'm trying to talk about is the fact that RMM does way too much. And how can we, I don't know that we'll ever be able to do without an RMM tool.
I am.
At least for a short amount of time, maybe in the future, who knows? But how can we get to a point where RMM becomes a temporary tool where we just install it real quick while we're doing some things and then removing it? Like, why does it need to be installed 24/7? And can we lift and shift those reasons to something else? Right?
I am still extraordinarily hopeful on the Microsoft Endpoint Manager. I mean, it is not a always on ubiquitous kind of thing. It is not an always. I mean, yes, the endpoints check in, but at the same time, it's like it's not.
it
is not something where I can directly remote in using it, or even have system level access privileges immediately while using it. I mean, it's all, everything is scripted. Everything is okay. You send the script. Expect about an hour and a half, maybe, before it gets run.
So you've got CrowdStrike. You got CrowdStrike where you can just deploy a PowerShell script, right? Do a quick install
through
quick
RTR if you know what you're doing. Yes.
Yeah, if you know what you're doing, it is.
RTR and CrowdStrike is not for the faint of heart. Please.
I say
it's not for the MSP.
It scares me. It really.
And I live in RTR.
Yeah, that scares me. But
okay,
I mean,
but to your point, right? I mean, if you have some sort of agent that's maybe already has to be on the machine just for functionality purposes, let maybe we hope Intune doesn't take an hour to deploy a script in the future. I don't know.
All right, Brian, if I can interject,
I would hazard one guess further. Okay, what do the majority of us actually use an RMM for now?
Patching
and
software deployment.
But see, okay,
I use Intune.
Endpoint Manager can do software deployments through MSI.
Mm-hmm.
It has up to a.
You can wrap an exe if you want to go through the
bullshit you can. It has up to a 3 or 4 gig limit on that file size, and if it's not the right type of file, you can also wrap it. I mean, there's a lot of nice things there that an RMM, traditional RMM, really doesn't need to be installed for. I mean, and I think at this point, the majority of what I'm using an RMM for is a remote access tool.
Man, I go into some of these Slacks, Reddits, and Discords, and I look at what some of these guys are doing with RMM. Fuck, I ain't doing shit. Like, I'm not monitoring the fuckery that these guys are.
Yeah.
I mean, in a lot of the monitoring stuff is like, why? What's the point of monitoring the CPU usages? I mean, okay, it's going to spike. I mean, unless your processor is
you question the board.
An i5 3rd gen or 4th gen. I mean, like, okay, if you have anything that's built within the last 5 years, there's no reason to be monitoring all that stuff. I mean,
but
really, the only thing.
Let's break down monitoring. It's real-time monitoring versus non-real-time. So the question becomes,
what about actionable monitoring?
Please don't AMSR on us, please.
I was asking about actionable monitoring.
So I need to put a chip in the mic, like, is that
I can think of 10 other tools that non-real-time monitoring and alerting could handle, right? So it's really, what do we care about real-time monitoring and alerting right now? Like, what are the real-time things that we care about?
God
right?
damn it, that old ransomware monitor.
Excluding security, right? What are the real-time things we care about?
Server down. Okay. and or not utilization, but disk space, I think, are the two critical ones that are still needed in some sort of management. You could probably negate it by using, hold on a second, like a network probe, from a Dumont or some other tool that maybe are pulling from WMI. But still, I still warn about that, about WMI exploitations. But those are kind of two things I would see at least some sort of need for real-time monitoring in some way, shape, or form, Mr. Shiva.
Of the people in this room, how many times has your monitor said, "Hey, disk utilization or disk space is running really low. Please increase disk space"? How many times have your client actually signed off on you increasing disk space as opposed to saying, "Hey, clear the temporary internet files or cache space or what have you"?
Well, most of the time it's VM, so we increase it. So, I mean, we do have a couple customers that with SQL databases and VMs that their queries just get overbloated, and we just go,
My point is, those are more the exceptions than the rule,
yeah.
right? Like,
I mean,
think
and I'd also go as far to say, look, if you're going to be accepting the entire Microsoft model, which we probably all are in the next 2 to 3 years for sure.
Google for life, yo. Not really.
No.
I really wish some of my clients would get off of Google. I really wish.
But I mean, if you're doing OneDrive, all your files that you haven't touched within the last 30 days, they're not on your computer anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a server down, 90% of the time you're getting a phone call before the monitor can even alert and you be notified of it.
Wait a second. Can we quote you for, I think it's Dave that gives me a hard time because I mentioned that. Or Ed.
What?
It was Ed. All the time Ed brings that up.
But dude, you have a 30-minute downtime monitor. I mean, come on.
I don't think I have a 30-minute. Do I?
That's
I can't
what you
even
told
remember.
us.
You using Datto?
Well, here's the other problem is like, what about false positives, right? Like, how much does it suck to get a server down false positive message after hours, right?
When last have you gotten a server down false positive? Outside of a patch maintenance window.
Since I changed the alert to 30 minutes, apparently never.
Yeah.
I got mine at 5.
That's part of it is like, okay, you can set up an alert for this, but okay, I mean, 99% of the time, we can't connect to the server, we can't get to our files, we're calling the IT guy. You're getting a phone call 2 to 3, 4 minutes, maybe 5, 10, 15 before you even get noticed by the monitor.
What can you do proactively about a server down, right?
You can't do anything.
Unless it's a virtual.
Whoa.
One of two things has happened. Let's be honest. One of two things has happened. One, the server is hard froze up, right? Yep. Or two, the power's out.
All you have to do,
or the internet went down.
Network's down.
Call the office. Yeah. Have anyone that picks up the phone plug a cable into the iDRAC, and hope and pray to God it has default credentials so you can log in to the iDRAC from the internet.
Great advice for the average MSP who didn't have that set up ahead of time.
Yeah. I mean,
if that person ever watched, I doubt they ever would, but if that person, oh my God.
See, anyway. This is, if I recall correctly, Robert figured out internet printing about 2 years ago. You get a switch right after your, the client's cable modem fire, whatever. Directly plug in that printer right into that switch to allow it to get a public IP address.
Fuck yeah.
Boom.
Cloud printing.
Free. For free. You can print to that printer from anywhere.
And we're not liable for any advice given here.
Man, I could just imagine some of the nasty print jobs that would come over the wire from that one.
I mean,
it's like having public fax on.
How sad is it we have to make disclaimers that people shouldn't be doing what we're saying to do right now?
It's bad. But it's the state, not state of the union, but it's the state of the industry, right? I mean, we said it before. There's no barrier.
I blame it on the vendors. I'm going back to the vendors because who else does the MSP community have to depend on for guidance other than who they're buying their products from?
Because
I
they're
mean,
definitely not listening to the
Brian,
educated people. That's for
Brian.
sure.
Right.
But the vendors would never lead them astray, Brian.
Throat Walker.
Yeah. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go buy any 1970s American-made car. Right off the lot.
I'll
right?
tell you what.
These are the best cars in the world.
Yeah.
See that paint job? It ain't gonna flake in 2 years.
No.
In fact, it won't even rust out. We swear.
Well, and half the time, that's a fair point, because half the time the salespeople selling these MSP channel vendor products don't even know they don't even know the product itself. So they could be lying through their teeth without even knowing it.
Or they could be lying through their teeth when they type a message to you and send it via email and still don't honor it. Where's Robert when you need him?
Oh man.
But back to, well, I want to get back to the RMM discussion, right? Because we were breaking down what does an RMM do. You've got the real time and the non-real time monitoring and alerting. Let's face it, we can move that to something else. We don't need a command and control agent to provide us with that, right? So what do we need a command and control agent for, really?
Ransomware deployment.
RDP.
Yes.
I mean,
inject malware, key logging. I want to steal all your passwords.
In my opinion, where you need it is to be able to run scripts that your security software won't question. And guess what I'm running into with an RMM software and a product like Cylance, for example? It's binary. Either we allow PowerShell scripts or we don't allow them.
Oh, I thought you
right?
meant just male or female. Never mind.
And yeah. And so the point I'm trying to make is, why are we using a product I'm getting back on my CrowdStrike bandwagon here. Like, how much more sense does it make to deploy these PowerShell scripts that need this elevated access to operate? Why not do that through your security product that knows to whitelist its own commands?
One step further.
Right?
The RMM, most of them use their own their own bullshit version of PowerShell, version 1.2, because it's deprecated, or they will use it, or they will use the onboard version 2, and they're not digitally signed. So even when you're like, okay, I only want digitally signed PowerShell scripts to run, you fucking nuke your RMM because it can't run.
Endpoint manager. Endpoint manager.
Why are we running PowerShell scripts anyway? If you have an AD or an Azure AD, what are you possibly doing on the regular with PowerShell?
Software deployment.
Not wanting to wait for the hour delay from Intune.
No, even with GPO. So, like, if you want to deploy PowerShell or you want to deploy software, a lot of the GPO or a lot of the vendors that like, okay, this is how you deploy our software via GPO is a PowerShell script.
I mean,
even Datto's GPO deployment is a PowerShell script.
Yeah,
I use their PowerShell script, and I can push it through CrowdStrike or I can push it through Intune. But if I have a customer, and hear me out here, I'm thinking way outside the box here.
Okay.
And I'm using a major platform or program.
What outside the box?
Why not just get it through the App Store so the client can go to the company portal and click install?
Because they're not designed for the App Store yet, because they haven't gone through the rigorous testing to be listed on various apps.
Right. So they didn't want to spend money when they should have. So we're doing with legacy shit. Gotcha. Okay.
Yep.
The world is a dumpster fire.
No, but that's how I deal with software deployment from a client perspective. I try to get it into the App Store, and even an MSI that I upload can appear in the App Store as available in the company portal as available to client to install. And if I have to push out a PowerShell script, then you do it through Intune. You hop onto the user's computer, you hit sync, the placebo sync button a few times, and hope something happens.
Yeah. Exactly, the placebo sync and hope and pray something.
Give it a half hour.
But what's your attack surface area using that methodology versus having an RMM on the device, which I guess is what Brian was getting to, of having a part-time RMM or an onboarding RMM.
Yeah. Because I mean, the RMM is not going to gather a whole lot of data that your a true EDR is not going to be able to gather anyway, right? So,
Or that
But
you
yeah,
would even
to-
care about. Let's be honest.
So when do you think the RMM vendors are going to take out a hit on each of us for messing with their MRR?
dude, I'm surprised they haven't done it to me already with the crap I did to them.
You're talking to a guy who's probably going to get the most backlash of them all, but I got to speak the truth. I mean, I can't lie to myself. Here's the last piece of the RMM that I think is most critical. I mean, there's other pieces too, but we could talk about them. Network discovery, right? Intune isn't going to do that for us, right?
No, actually,
So-
actually,
It's
it
starting.
will.
Yeah,
They have one that's released. It's in beta now, right, Adam or Andy?
I think so.
Yeah, they've actually got a
It's
network code
coming,
now.
Brian. It's coming. Like I said, give the whole Intune Microsoft ecosystem
Dude,
2 years or so.
2 years ago, I said Intune is going to be the way in a year. or
Wait,
two.
no. Who said it before you even?
Dr.
Earl.
Errol
Dr.
Janis.
Intune.
Yeah,
2 years
Dr.
ago.
Intune.
I said Intune's going to be my way forward. Everyone's like, no, Intune's at least 5 years away. Bull fucking shit.
Yeah.
Within the next year, I don't think you're going to need our RMM at all.
Yeah.
Okay, so asset
Well,
management.
except actually, there is one thing you're going to need an RMM for: third-party application patching.
Well, that can be a third tool though. That
Right.
Well,
Automox
not necessarily a true
or
RMM,
whatever,
but yeah.
or chocolatey or
Well,
How's
what-
that email looking, Eric?
what?
I think-
What's what?
Hey, hang on. I want to step back a little bit. So
You've got mail.
You got all.
Oh man.
They
Yeah, I
have
know
yet
where
to
you're-
fix that one. They're still going rounds and rounds with that one.
are we allowed to talk about that?
No,
Probably not.
not yet. We gotta
Okay.
let them fix that vulnerability first, please.
Okay, Eric is going to start up a Patreon for whoever's listening. If you pay oodles and oodles of money, we will talk to you about it offline after. Maybe.
That will.
Would it be better
literally
just to
be
do an
dollar amount,
OnlyFans?
Noodles and noodles.
Yeah, OnlyFans could work too.
Because everybody could be a fan and not talk about my exploit activities.
That works.
Oh man.
I hope you're not going to charge a subscription for that dance. Is all I'm saying.
No, it's just my fat man happy dance. Man.
Anyway, Brian, you were saying, sorry.
So I want to talk about pillar number 1 of NIST, identify, and the
No,
fact
no,
that
we don't got time for this.
does any MSP really have any one tool that identifies everything? I mean, if Intune's going to start doing network discovery, now you've got Microsoft identifying your users, your apps, your workstations, your mobile devices, your network devices. You have a single source of truth of identification that you can build all your policies around. How fucking awesome is that?
Oh, go ahead,
Right?
Stu, and then I got something that I want to.
I have 2 questions because both hands are up. First of all, Microsoft fucked up DLP April 1st of last year when they fucked up sensitivity labels, and they haven't unfucked that yet.
Yeah, I've had to remove that.
Secondly, I'm happy you bring up pillar number 1.
Oh Lord. I
Okay.
hear it coming.
So, MSPs, you lovely humans, you are tip of the spear. Now, Brian, when I ask you to tell me where your data is, would you include your vendor being able to see that data? Are you cognizant of the fact that your vendors have a copy of your data backed up because they should be backing up their SaaS? Back that SaaS up.
Back that's. You know, I'm all about that SaaS.
And the reason I ask this is because most MSPs I've worked with a lot, or whatever, and most talk about locations they have their data. Not one has ever spoken to me about their vendor having a backup of their tenant with their data in it somewhere. How do you address that? Not you, but anybody.
Take them out of the supply chain.
Okay, Salesforce. How do you take a Salesforce out of the supply chain?
You can't.
Okay. How do you
So-
accept that risk?
Well, that's. I mean, if you want to get into it, I'm looking at 3 major components that I use to run my business: PSA, documentation, password management. I've already got offline capabilities with my password management. I do not have offline capabilities of my PSA or documentation yet.
I count 4 data locations there. No, 4 primary data locations for practically the same data. Not to mention those vendors' backups.
And I just want to mention, going back to being the
And I'm in no different position than you are, Brian. So this is not me shitting on
Same.
it.
and this is a valid point for this whole single pane of glass, or what you call the single identity of truth. If your identity gets popped, I mean, take MFA and you're protecting your identity and shoving it up your ass, but if you take that out of the picture, you have essentially put everything in one big freaking bubble for an asshole like me to pop and get control of everything. Do you really want that? I mean, granted, I personally think Mike, as much you may want to like or dislike Microsoft depending on the week and what they're doing, but I do think long term Microsoft does have the best interest of the enterprise and the small business at heart, for the long term goal. But you still got, again, you got to say, do you really want to trust all of your data, all of your information in a single platform that holds every damn thing?
Well,
I think nobody ever wants to trust one single point. I think that's inherent. I mean, back when we had pen and paper, it was really easy to say, yep, that's where we stored everything. In the digital age, pen and paper is not really a thing.
Yeah.
And so you have to store it somewhere. You have to have a single manager. You have to have a single identity provider. But on the flip side, lock that shit down.
Like a chastity belt.
Yeah. I mean, by default, Microsoft says, hey, and again, I mean, people say it's not really that big of a deal because IPv4 can be, bypassed by IPv6. But so why are you still allowing all the other countries in IPv4?
Because the network devices can't fully translate IPv6.
Why are you still allowing from logins from known? I mean, if the login is definitively known from a certain country code or a certain language code or anything like that, when your business or the businesses that you're working for don't operate there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it may be small in the grand scheme of things, but it is still more than nothing.
But why isn't that a basic requirement that people are trained on?
Because you don't need training to sell IT services.
You don't need, yeah.
Okay, this is me not wanting to bash the shitheads. This is me literally saying geo-blocking is not the end-all be-all, because as we saw with SolarWinds, they'll just spin something up domestically, do what they got to do, whatever. But why not make them do that by geo-blocking? And why isn't that basic practice across IT service providers? Like, I would love to do an episode with you.
It would take the vendors to have that come as a default setting to really get everyone to use it.
Fuck them. The vendors ain't gonna do shit. The vendors want
they don't want the
vendors
support.
need the ransomware. The cybersecurity vendors are not going to make you safer, so you don't need their product.
Are you trying to pull like a McAfee situation here or what?
No, he's trying to pull a Few Good Men situation.
What?
Keep up.
Cocaine and hookers in the Caribbean?
I'm trying to talk to the former Marine over here.
There's no former.
As I said, the former Marine.
But I want to get.
I can get some crayons.
To Andy's point.
Where's my glue?
To Andy's point, and having all your eggs in one basket, it is a lot easier to secure a single door than it is to secure 10 doors. However, I do believe there should be certain air gaps in place. Like I still haven't decided to put keeper security on SSO. Like I want that to be separate, right? That's an air gap. You know what I mean? So just because you have all your eggs in one basket doesn't mean you can't also air gap certain things that are ultra critical, right?
I just love how Brian's just nesting his tools and everything to the entire world.
I know Eric's got to go soon, so I have one closing thought / challenge. I'd love to do an episode with you guys about what the core basics should be for every IT provider.
Yeah, we'll get it scheduled.
I think that's a good one. Yeah.
And then once we put it out there and give people enough time to actually abide by it, then we can start shitting on them like crazy. It'll be more fun.
We were wrong.
To trigger Eric one last time, has MFA been rolled out in the federal government yet, Eric?
No. Well, I'm sure there's some places that do have it, but there's no reporting on it. Like, hey, we've come to the mandate. So I'm pretty sure that most of them are still on some sort of stupid ass extension.
Yeah.
Well, but the highly
for some reason, we can still host email servers in our basements.
I will say that I know for a fact that highly classified DoD has been using the rotating codes for a while. Like back in the day where they literally had a pager, right? That would tell them their new code to get in.
What about the subcontractor that's secured by an MSP?
Now, supply chain, I can't speak for that.
We're terrible.
And they got remote access to all those devices too.
Yeah.
Unaudited remote access.
But see, that's why I like the Microsoft GovCloud. Like, you're not putting an RMM on that crap.
Dude, why do you think, well, at least up until a year ago or 2 years ago, Microsoft GCC High told Perch to fuck off? We're not plugging you in.
Yeah, I laughed so hard on that.
It was wonderful.
It was. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's go around. Shiva, we'll get.
I talked already too much. Let them.
Andy, closing remarks, good sir.
You can always do more security. Don't skimp.
That's where you offer to sell.
And I mean, even still, you don't have to pay money. Just do the stuff with the tools that you still have.
Mm-hmm. That's
just
another
implement the stuff. That's all you got to do. Just implement it.
That make them pay.
Mr. Pam, Bri. Closing remarks, sir.
Number one, VAM. I'm going to start off with that. Second thing I will say is you need to come back to these podcasts because we're cutting through the bullshit and the politics and we're getting down to brass tacks. And that's what these discussions are about. We're not about any fluff, marketing, sales. We're all about how can we help MSPs do better and how can we shit on the MSPs that aren't doing better.
I like it.
May like it.
It stinks a lot in here, and it's not me.
Sorry, you smell my dogs over here?
Yeah, I am. Good Lord.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for so much for tuning in. As Brian said, please tune in some more. Please like and subscribe. And please, for the love of God, share this with somebody you think will benefit from this thing. And we'll see y'all in a couple weeks. Thank you so much. Take care.
There once was a kid whose passwords laid across all sites. They were the same, a criminal, then found their fame by taking that data to go. Soon may a criminal come to steal your pictures and data and run. One day when the crime is done, they'll steal your account and go.